In this video, I'm going to show you how I transform myself into a talking woman. So if you're interested in making consistent AI video, then this video might be perfect for you. Because this is part 2 of a series where I share Tokyojab's amazing hacks to create consistent AI videos.
Rise and shine, folks. It's a beautiful day.
In the first tutorial, I showed the 2 clever hacks he used to outsmart the AI. And in this tutorial, I will share Tokyojab's knowledge gained in the past 3 months along with the insights I've acquired from experimenting with this temporal consistency method. Before we dive into what we will cover in this video, I want to give a big shout out to Tokyojab, who I will call Jab from now on, because that's what he prefers. And I highly recommend you to have a look at his Instagram account to see all of his amazing videos. And I want to let you know that this tutorial might not be as smooth as the first tutorial, because since half a year I've got like inflammations due to an autoimmune illness on my shoulders and on my elbows, and I can only work 2 to 3 hours per day on a computer, and that's why I just wanted to work a bit quicker. The good news is that my homeopathic doctor thinks that within 5 months I'll be fit again, so there's hope for the future. So in this video we will cover installing and using tiled VAE. This is a thing which helps making the computer spread the GPU load. We will also explore the use of multiple Controlnet models in Stable Diffusion for even more consistency. We will learn how to create larger grids for longer videos, generate 9:16 resolution videos, and I add a few additional useful tips and tricks that make this temporal consistency method even more effective. If you haven't watched the first tutorial, then you can click here on the card or down in the description below on the link. I highly recommend doing this because it will make it much easier to understand and follow along with this video. Okay, let's begin by installing the tiled VAE and the depth map extension. The tiled VAE is a part of the multi-diffusion extension and you can find it on this GitHub page. All the links that I will be using in this video will be in the description. Now copy the link and in Stable Diffusion you go to the extensions tab, go to install from URL and paste it in here and click install. Now let's install the depth map extension. You can find the depth map extension here. So copy the link and in Stable Diffusion paste it in here and click the install button. Then go to the install tab, check for updates and then hit the apply and restart. Now in Stable Diffusion you have a tab that's called tiled VAE. Now you have to enable it and then Stable Diffusion will distribute the workload on your GPU. This allows people like me who have a smaller graphic card also to follow along. So before I'm gonna demonstrate how to use the depth map extension, I first want to create a grid with 9 images. And at the end of the video I'll explain the resolution size for 9:16 videos. So this is the video where I want to change myself into a woman. I think I do. So I exported the last 111 frames from this video as an image sequence and now I'm going to look for the best 9 frames for my grid. I started looking for mouth changes to carefully pick my keyframes. Because I have 111 frames altogether, I calculated that the best mix for me would be to have roughly every 14 frames a new keyframe. Looking back, I realized that I could have done it differently and maybe perhaps I should, but well, this will become clear as I will stitch everything together in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, and now I'm going to show you how to create a larger grid. And this is exactly the same as in the first tutorial, but only now you're going to select 9 images and you drag them into the box. And then you have a grid with 9 images. Click on the download button again and you're ready to go. And for a grid with 16 images, you just drag 16 images into the box. Now we will use the depth map extension to create a depth map for Controlnet, which we will use later in this video. In Stable Diffusion, go to the depth tab, then select batch from directory. Now we're going to double click on the keyframe folder and hover over this folder. Then right click to do copy address and then paste it in here. Now you're going to double click on the folder where you want to put the images in, right click on the folder, copy address and paste it in here. Leave the settings as they are. Definitely keep it on GPU because otherwise your computer goes very slow, and then hit generate. Now with these images we are going to create a grid as well. And for now we will leave the depth map extension. We will come back later for it as we use it to create a mask which we can use in DaVinci Resolve to get a consistent and flicker-free background. Now we will go back to Stable Diffusion and install 3 Controlnet units. So we're going to click here on Controlnet and enable the first one, then go to Lineart, set this to Lineart Realistic and leave the model as it is. I'm going to set my control weight to 1.1 and leave the other settings for as they are. Then I'm going to drag in my grid and hit the explosion to see if the result is what we want. Now in the second Controlnet, which we're gonna enable as well, and sign up for Pixel Perfect, something I forgot to do in this one, sorry for that. And in the second Controlnet, I'm gonna select depth, and then none for the preprocessor and leave the model as it is. And now I'm going to load my depth map grid into here. And in the third Controlnet, which we enable as well, we're gonna use open pose. And then we're gonna choose open face or open face only. We're not gonna select Pixel Perfect because this will make your computer very, very slow. Now we're going to set the preprocessor resolution to the resolution of your grid. Then drag the normal grid in here, click on the explosive button to see the result. Here's an interesting tip from Jab. He says that if you only use the open pose and the depth map Controlnet unit, you can create some very wacky outcomes. So try it yourself. Now I'm going to disable the open pose Controlnet and disable the depth map Controlnet. I found out that this was just working better for me. I mean, Jab has a 24GB VRAM card and I only have 8GB of VRAM. And since I'm using a close-up shot, these units didn't improve my results. However, the depth map control unit is excellent for videos with a lot of movement, like this video where Jab turns around. And I also wanted to show it, because then people with massive graphic cards can use these techniques. Before we begin creating the prompts, I want to mention that I'm using the new deliberate model for this tutorial. So we download this, and we're also going to download this lora. Now we're going to copy this model and paste it in this folder. Then we copy this lora and we put it in this folder. And if you're interested in learning more about this model, then I would recommend to watch this video from Olivio Sarikas. For the prompt and the negative prompt, I will use the prompts from the realistic vision model again. So now I'll replace the word subject with sexy young woman. And then I add light glare on film and light reflected on film in a negative prompt. And then I add the negative prompts from the realistic vision model. For the sampling method, I choose DPM++ 2mm. For the sampling steps, I will go for 60 and the CFG scale I will leave at 7. Then I will set the width and height to 1536. And I'll enable restore faces. With close-ups, it is normally better to leave restore faces off, because then you get better results with more detail. But this doesn't work with the grid, so I made a comparison and here's the result. You can see that with restore faces, it does a bit better with the grid. But as you can see, I have a few very strange mouths with crazy tongues and crazy teeth. So I will add deformed tongue in the negative prompt. Now I want to use the lora. To add the lora, I will click in the prompt box, add a comma and a space. Now I'm going to click this button to add the lora. There we go. And then click here again to go out of it. Now I'm going to change this to 0.03 and then click the generate button. Wow, that is much better. In the result you can see that the light is lower. It also comes a bit more from the side, and this gives more texture to the skin and more overall details. You can see that the tongue became much better, but I still need to fix the teeth problem. After trying different techniques, such as different CFG scales and different sampling steps, and using the depth map unit and the open pose unit alongside the Lineart unit, but this still couldn't solve my teeth issue. The problem arises because in the original clip you can only see my mouth and you don't see my teeth, and because of this I think Stable Diffusion just is really confused. To overcome this, I came up with an interesting workaround that I'll demonstrate later in this video. But first I want to share the highres trick that Jab taught me. With this trick, the end grid will be in a higher resolution, meaning more detail. To do this, enable highres fix. Then set the upscaler to EBsynth 4 times. Set the highres steps to 50 and the denoising strength to 0.3 and set upscale by to 1.35 and then hit the generate button. Now on the left we have the 1536 by 1536 and on the right we have the 2073 by 2073. Now if we zoom in, then you can see that the right image has more detail. Now I will downscale this in DaVinci Resolve. In Resolve I created a 1536 by 1536 timeline, and then you can see this image is 2072 by 2072. Now the only thing you have to do is drag it in here, right click on it and make a new fusion clip. Then if you go into the fusion tab, then you can see this image now is 1536 by 1536. So right click on it and save image as. Now I'm going to use this clip in a different resolve composition to merge my images and to create the teeth problem. I set the original grid as the background, then the grid created in Stable Diffusion in the foreground, and then I merge them together, and this is the end result. And you do that if you go to the merge node and then you go to settings, there's a blend option. So here you can see this is me, this is the version from Stable Diffusion, and I found out that at 0.8 it worked best for me. Then I add this polygon tool to create a mask so that my mouth is going to be the mouth of the original image. You can see that here. Here is the old mouth, and this is my mouth, and I just blend it together. And in the polygon tool, you have to set the soft edge to 0.003. Then to create a new mask for the second mouth, you're gonna get this polygon, set it to invert, connect it up here. And then in this polygon, make sure you set it to multiply, because if you set it to merge, nothing happens. Set it to multiply. And here in the end result, you can see that all the images have my mouth and my tongue in it. And then I used sgif to create single images from my grid. And then I ran the 9 images through EBsynth as I did in the first tutorial. However, when I stitched them together in Resolve, I realized that there wasn't enough overlap for the transition because my keyframes were so close to each other. So to create space for a smoother transition, I ran each keyframe separately through EBsynth. Doing this gave me more space for transitions, resulting in a smoother end video. Now I'm going to use the depth map extension to create a mask for Resolve, to create flicker-free background. So in Fusion we go to the depth tool, then go to the batch from directory tab, double click on the original images, hover over the right copy address, paste it in. Now we do the same for the mask, hover over this right copy address and paste it in. Then we leave the settings as they are, we scroll down, enable remove background, enable save the foreground masks and set the model to silhouette and then hit generate. And then Stable Diffusion will clear the background from all the images. In Resolve I select all my images, right click and choose new compound clip. Then I open the folder containing the mask created by Stable Diffusion. Now I only want to use the images where I am on it without the background. So to do this I select the depth map and mask and move them to a separate folder. Next I select all the files in this folder. Then I press F2 and name the file 0000 and hit enter. Now these files are a sequence again. I pressed Shift plus spacebar to add a bitmap node. Then I added the merge node and the background node. I set the alpha of the background tool to 0 and dragged the background into the background of the merge node. The bitmap tool goes in the foreground of the merge node. Now, when you connect this merge node to the mask from the median one, you will have an image with a transparent background. Then, in the bitmap node, I set the soft edge to 0.008. After that, I added the saver and gave the file a name. Finally, I went to the Fusion tab in the top left and clicked on Render All Savers. So now let's have a look at the final result. But before we do that, I want to show you the resolutions that Jab uses to create 9:16 videos. Since the original Stable Diffusion model is trained with a 512 resolution, Jab decided to stick to scales that work best within Stable Diffusion. So for this, he uses a frame size of 512 by 1024 or 1024 by 2048. This results in grids that are 2048 by 2048 and 4096 by 4096. So let's look at the final result. I wonder if I would fancy myself if I would be a girl. I think I do. So I am quite satisfied with the result. I am curious what you think of it. Please let me know in the comments. And I hope you have learned something from this tutorial. And I want to say thanks to Jab again for helping me so much. And if you are interested in another AI video, then you can click here.